Hello. I'm Christopher Stapleton, as it says. I work with Colway Fire Studio. Basically, it's just a way that I can share my artwork. I'm just going to be sharing a little bit about myself, kind of an intro, what kind of artwork I like to do. If you hear a little bit of a feedback or reverb in my voice, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get my audio set up. For the most part, I'm a visual instructor. I've been to the Art Institute of Seattle. Got my bachelor's degree. I actually had two bachelor's degrees, but it doesn't really matter. One in media arts and animation, and the other in game design. But as we know, or you may not know, the Art Institute of Seattle is no more, which is kind of sad, but oh well. So basically, I am a traditional and digital artist. I'm working on becoming a better artist, and so comments, concerns, questions, feedback is great. One thing I really enjoy is drawing and sculpting. I use various tools. So right here in this section over here, I've got a drawing section that I can draw with and whatnot. And feel free to chat if you have anything. I'll just put a testing right here. I can see your comments up there. What I'm going to be doing is talking about artwork, basically an in-depth what I've learned at the Art Institute, things that I've learned over the years, and how I can better continue to do artwork. I have some content to show of what I'll be doing, but right now I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself. I know that kind of sounds a little bit arrogant, but I'm just going to share a little bit about what I plan to do, some examples that I've got. I'm going to be starting with the basics. So we're going to be talking about pencils, markers, colored pencils, what you can do with a pencil. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but I actually have a lot of really cool feedback when I was doing it on Facebook, and I tried it out for a while. This is a book I'll be using, Pencil Pictures. It talks about all kinds of different pictures you can use, what composition is. I have another book here. So this one's about colored pencil techniques. There are things that I'd like to use in the book. So for example, one thing that I like about this book is, needless to say, it was an old book, but right here in the beginning, it talks about like the composition of using pencils, why it's important to have composition broken up and whatnot, and also using silhouettes to create pencil documents or pencil compositions, how you can use different values to create different scenes within the book, and then kind of like a focal point and whatnot. So that book is kind of what I'm going to be going over. I also have colored pencil techniques. This one's pretty cool. Basically talking about, let's see here. I can't believe that that was all done in colored pencil. It's just amazing. So they're talking about materials that you can use. Pictures are more than 1,000 words, or better than 1,000 words. So they're talking about different kinds of paper, tape. I can't remember the name of that right now offhand. They have like different kinds of colored pencils, different hardnesses and thicknesses. That's something that we're going to be going over in the pencils, and I can just go over a little bit of that now, kind of show a little bit of that. So basically, these are pencils I use. I got a gum eraser, I've got kneaded erasers in here. So basically this is just like, you can pull it apart and use it for your art. I've got a little bit of these little things for creating squares and composition sizes. Just a little helpful template. I've also got some big pencils, some smaller pencils. I got this pencil from Vietnam, and I really like using, way down here, where's that guy at? I use a lot of these pencils right here. It's a number 2 pencil, and so the lead is very soft. And we're going to be going over hardnesses, thicknesses, what you can do with a pencil, marks you can make with a pencil. I'll show you some. Sorry, I also have a cold, so we'll be going over a lot of that. And we're going to go over traditional drawing. We're going to go over things that I've learned about using pencils. Here are some drawings, some really fast sketches. So I did all this with my right hand. These are examples of things that I did really quickly. I usually just draw out. Sometimes I use this guy if I'm in a hurry and I just want to whip out some really quick. I create a lot of landscapes, and I'm really into kind of temple castle structures. I have no idea why, but it's just kind of the energy that flows out of me. A little about this logo in the side, and then in the back of me right here. It's called Cold White Fire. It's basically a authentic and eternal light that radiates within. And so that light that radiates within is my energy, and I like to have balance in my life based on the yin and the yang. And so anyhow, a lot of these are things that I do with my left hand. We're going to talk about foreground, midground, background, stuff like that. I also have compositions I did with my right hand, which is like this. So I'm trying to get better at, oh sorry, this was right hand, and then left hand. There's a really good book about this. Let's see here. It's called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. It's a book that I'll be using over the course. I mean, these really aren't courses, but they're just live streams about things that I'd like to learn about. So I'm not the greatest artist in the world, but I'm trying to get myself out there. I'm trying to make in-depth the reasons why I do certain things and why it's important to me to draw, why I'm trying to get better. Sometimes I think the bar is way up here, but I'm kind of down here, which is fine because I'm growing each day and I'm using content and books to help me. I host a lot of videos and whatnot. I'm also involved in various lifetime memberships with professional artists, such as robotpencil.net and learnsquare.com. These are places that I'm using help from these professional artists to get better. So I can do a lot of landscapes and stuff, but I'm trying to get better at anatomy. So if you see my drawings and they kind of suck, well, they told us at the Art Institute of Seattle it takes 1,000 bad drawings to make one good drawing. So this is a book we're going to be using. It's going to be talking about these people who created on this side. This is they talk about the left brain and right brain. I got a fly in here too, so he wants to be on the camera also, I guess. So you talk about your left hand and your right hand, and you talk about anatomical position, which is basically, here's a book that talks about that. It's called The Atlas of Human Anatomy. This is what they do in doctors' offices. My wife was a nurse and learning nursing, and they talk about how Like for example, we'll get back to this book in a second. Dumb fly. So basically they're talking about trunk and limbs, trees, and man. So like they got this kind of person slash tree. Oh boy. I should have turned that off. Anyways, so they've got this thing that says midline. So if you take a piece of a trunk or a piece of wood that's been chainsawed, or in this case, taken off with an axe. So they split it down the middle. That's called the midline. They do the same over here. They've got the midline through the body. They've got longitudinal axes, vertical, oblique, horizontal, etc., etc. They've got deep and superficial. And so how that relates over here is they've got the right side and the left side. And that seems kind of confusing because they got the left side and the right side. If I do left and then L like this one looks like the one that we use in English. And so you got left side, right side, but actually in anatomical position, when you're like this is the left side. Because the left side doesn't always change. It depends on your perspective and where you are facing the camera or away from the camera, or how people are looking at you and whatnot. So we're going to talk a lot about anatomy. We're going to talk about bones and muscles. I have some examples that I can show. But to come back to this book, we're going to talk about left brain, right brain. So this is all left brain that these people were trying to draw and whatnot. It says John Boomer, January 3rd, 1978. Gerardo Campos, September 2nd, 1973. I can also speak Spanish. If anyone has questions in Spanish, I can try, and I have like a conversational Spanish, but not like an expert and whatnot. And then over here on this side was John Boomer. This was January 3rd, and this is March 5th, 1978. January, February, or February, March, so that's like 2 months. And then you got Gerardo Campos, September 2nd, 1973. And then right here is the same guy, November 10th, 1973. So October, November. It took them both 2 months to draw these two things. Sorry about that. Basically, so how are they doing this? They're doing it with so you have your left hand is connected to your right brain. Here's a picture in here. Here's some more examples. So let's see. So for example, you got right brain, left brain, and how your left hand is connected to your right brain and your right hand is connected to your left brain. This is so important in artwork because your right hand is more analytical, logical, wants to draw straight lines, just like in this example. This is the right brain, or the left brain with the right hand. I always get confused. So this L is it wants straight corners, it wants it very sharp, almost like if you take it out of a 3D software and you don't bevel the corners or whatnot. And then this is the left brain, which is connected to your right hand. It's more creative, it's more spatial, visual, and whatnot. So coming back to this guy, I mean, we're going to be talking about the brain a little bit, not too much. Then what I really like in here is examples of left brain, right brain. So they call them different modes: left mode, right mode. So for example, I drew some of these in here. Right brain is more really quick drawings. Like if I took a pencil, if I can find a pencil. Okay, so for example, I'm going to draw real quick. And even though your right hand is connected to your left brain and your left hand is connected to your right brain, you can still change modes. So your right mode and your left mode, or your right brain and your left brain, can be in different modes. And if you're in one mode, you can change to the other mode. But I'm not sure if that has to mean, I haven't read this book all the way through. I just look at the pictures and look at the footnotes and whatnot, the chapter headings and all that. They taught us at Art Institute of Seattle to, if you're going to read a book, you basically look at the table of contents, you find something that sticks out to you, and then you jump to that page, look at all the pictures in that chapter, read the chapter headings, read the paragraphs underneath the pictures, and then you find a paragraph in there, like a section heading, and then go to that paragraph, read that paragraph, and then go back to the beginning and do it all over again. And you do that about 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 times until you get kind of a gist of what they're talking about for the chapter, and done. You don't read the whole book. I mean, that would take forever. So that was kind of a thing that I learned at the Art Institute of Seattle. So anyhow, so this is my right hand. And my right hand, I'm learning about this. So for example, I have some artwork that so let me see if I can find this guy. So if I use my if I use the lines to create a 2-point perspective, we're going to be talking about perspective, 3-point perspective, and whatnot. I have grids that I made at the Art Institute of Seattle that were already pre-made, and I made them on vellum with ink. So I'll use those grids to kind of draw grids out instead of having to redraw a whole grid out. It's kind of challenging. So we have this temple that I made kind of in 2-point perspective, and I was getting frustrated about, man, it takes forever to do this. Not that it takes forever, but it's taking longer times. So I found this method called the line upon line, precept upon precept method. It comes from the book of Isaiah in the Bible, and other books of scripture. So basically, they talk about rigidity and flexibility. Rigidity is like this, and it's also like, let's see if I have another example. Yeah, so this is like rigidity. You can see that. This is rigidity. You've got like lines that just, it's like a saw, you stick your hand in there, you're going to get cut. But this one, the dynamic or the flexible, is more like free-flowing lines. And so the right hand is kind of like this, but it can be like this too, depending on which mode you switch back into. And so these are like things that I've done with my left hand and my right hand. I kind of just go through with my sketchbook. Start with like little small thumbnails, get bigger and bigger and bigger, and just let my left hand go. I really don't use my left hand that very much, so I'm trying to get better at this and trying to strengthen my muscle memory. And so anyways, and then I have my right hand that I have muscle memory all my life, but for the sake of the body, in my family we kind of shied away from talking about the body, or we just learned that it was sacred. So when I was at the Art Institute of Seattle, it was challenging for me they have live nude models, which is great. But at the same time, it was challenging for me to draw. There was 2 things that were challenging. The first thing was challenging was, you have hand to eye or eye to hand. So you have, you take say I'm going to take this picture up here with the frame in the back. I take that, look at it with my eyes, and then transfer or copy it in my mind to the paper. But the more that you, like I learned to copy master drawings, which meant that I look at them and then I draw them and I look at them and I draw them on paper, not necessarily getting out carbon paper or putting it underneath and just tracing like we do sometimes in Photoshop. But it's okay. I mean, it's just a method of transferring ideas to paper. Some of the things that they do in the professional world also is, in the film and gaming industry, is they just take a picture of somebody and then draw around them with photo bashing and whatnot. Meaning that you take photos and you bash them together and you create a composition that you can use for other content, such as backgrounds, foreground, middle ground, different compositions for landscapes, different compositions for portraits, etc., etc. And so a little bit about this was, I got compositions, doing smaller sketches, and here's some more of that right here, doing these lines and whatnot. I thought that was so tedious. Not to say that I don't enjoy it, but it just takes a long time. So for example, I've got this example right here. So I've got these lines, and I just start like drawing lines. I think I drew that with a ruler, can't remember. But I kind of just draw these lines going off into the distance. And then sometimes they're a little bit crooked. And I just kind of draw out my shading, draw a door, something like that. Maybe some windows, something like that. And that was a lot simpler. I mean, that's kind of in 2-point perspective, a little bit of 1-point perspective. And then, you know, I can even come down a little bit. The cool thing about artwork is you can always change it if you don't like it. You know, you can draw something like this, draw a little river underneath, something flowing like that. You know, drawing is fun. I mean, you just do what you can. And I have this method called, this is my personal method, it's called let it live. So if you draw something, you're not like going to be like, erase it, I hate that thing. I don't do that. I just let it live. If it's bad, then I try again, you know, do something a little bit better next time. But if you don't like my drawing, I mean, maybe it sucks, maybe it's not that great, maybe you think it's cool. Either way, it's just a drawing. I mean, we can learn as we go and get better at it. Maybe we can use these as compositions for stuff like this. But I think this looks totally better than this, even though it's from a 1-point perspective, slight 2-point perspective. Sorry about that. Trying to get over a little cold. So something like this, and drawn in perspective, it's just really challenging. So anyhow, that's one example. And so I'm going to draw a little bit. So my upbringing was, ever since I was about 8 years old, I started drawing all kinds of different things. I've drawn a little bit about dinosaurs. I was drawing from my head mostly when I was a kid. I like to draw with reference now, both traditionally and digitally. I'm a little bit more fluent with digital than I am traditional, but they carry over. So let me just show some of those examples again. This was right brain, and it was just with a big pencil, whereas we have so this is left brain. Sorry, I keep getting fused between the right hand and the right brain. So left hand, or sorry, left brain, right hand. I get that confused all the time. Sorry. And then we've got left brain, sorry, left hand, right brain. Whew. And so these are a lot quicker, and my hand isn't as, it's more dynamic. I call this lefty and righty. Righty is more rigid, and left hand is more flexible, dynamic. So I can't really draw that right over here, but I'm just going to try. And maybe that's not straight, but it's okay. You know, you can always go back and change it. And you can draw stuff really fast. You can do like a little boat in the water. If I want to do a boat, then I do some clouds. And then I got, maybe there's a hill right here. And I got some people. Something like that real quick. And I really like quick drawings for compositions that I can enlarge and work on them bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to take a brief 5-minute intermission. So we'll be back in a minute. So here we go. Be back in 5 minutes.
Hadouken! 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 Hadouken!
All right, we're back. I know that wasn't totally 5 minutes, but oh well. So, I just had to take care of something. So, anyways, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things through this course of streaming, live streaming. It's not really a course, but it's we're going to have sections of content where we're going to be talking about. Each stream will be numbered, and so that will be better. This is stream 001. I plan to make 100 videos or more. Excuse me. And I'm going to show some examples, some more examples of left brain and right brain in just landscapes. This also is left brain, right brain. Let's move this guy out of the way. I'm going to show a little bit of my work from the past, just to show my sucky drawings and where I've been and where I'd like to be. And so I got a lot of these drawings that I used left brain and right brain sorry left brain and right brain to create different compositions. And I can use this for transitioning into Photoshop, into Sketchbook by Autodesk, or Krita. And there's one more that I use. I use Affinity Photo, which is an alternative to Photoshop. Sorry about that. I can't believe I'm coughing so much. Anyways, this is kind of examples that I've done. I'm going to show you my portfolio regarding other things that I've done, and I will show that in a bit. I'm going to go to my portfolio online. But first I'm going to show you a portfolio of drawings that I've done. So this is my portfolio online. I'm going to show it in a minute. Okay. So let me just get one thing real quick. So I have a lot of I have some drawings that are from way back when, but I cannot find them right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself a little bit more. I know I didn't really get an intro. I really like to beatbox. I like to sing a choir. I'm going to be singing in the Handel's Messiah. I'm a bass. Bass. And then I also like volleyball. I enjoy drawing. Sorry. Drawing and sculpting, like I said, in ZBrush. We're going to get into all that also. And a lot of what I'm going to show you is mostly just pencils, which is what we're talking about right now. More that I like to do is I like to create sound, music and whatnot. So beatboxing, sound effects, audio production. I'm an audio engineer. So all the music that you heard within the video is also music that I've created. I enjoy photography and web design. I don't do a lot of that right now. I have my business website and we'll show it later. Not in this stream, but later in other future streams. So I'm just going to show a little bit more. So let's start from the beginning. So this was something that I did at the Art Institute of Seattle. This is a picture of Leonardo da Vinci from his book. I have the book right here. 1 second. I got this as a present from a friend when I first went to art school, and it was a pretty good price, $25. And so this image comes from the book, and I got permission from this book company to use this book into my streams. Some of the other books, I know I purchased them so I could do what I want with them, but I actually, if I have a book that's really nice, especially Leonardo da Vinci and whatnot, I didn't get permission to use every book, so I'm not copywriting their copyright, of course. But I did get permission to use this book, and a lot of it, what we're going to be talking about, comes from Leonardo da Vinci, comes from Disney's Illumination of Life, or is this called the... called the Illusion of Life. I can't find it right now, but it's called the Illusion of Life. So the picture that I made was from this book. If I can find it. So it was this one right here. Let me get my copy, my drawing. So it's not perfect, but his face in this one is too wide. I need to measure it a little bit better, measuring like this and then putting it on the paper. So his portrait was a little bit, his is obviously a little better than mine for sure. And I need to work on hair. I need to work on the nose is kind of off a little bit. This lip is okay, but they need to be shrinked in, and this space in here is too much. So I can analyze what I'm doing wrong, but this was at Art Institute of Seattle about 10 years ago. And I did this in 2003 with this image. So that's some of what I've done in the beginning. Let's take this away. So I've got some portfolio stuff. This was at the Art Institute. I have earlier things that I've done, but I'm just going to show you a little bit of stuff that was earlier. When I was a little kid, I used to just draw on my head. So this I actually saw this guy much later in my life in the darkness and whatnot. But I thought it'd be cool to have like the Grim Reaper in some sort of like druid hat or something like that with his hands pointing to something. I actually used my hands to look at. I think it was this hand. So it was like something like this, as if I were looking at it. Something like that, you know. So that was something I drew out of my head. This was another thing I drew out of my head. It's supposed to go the other way around like this. I'm gonna move this papers and stuff. Geez. Move these out of the way so we have some more room. So this self-portrait was something that I did in school. I know it has kind of a little bit of a glare. See if I can fix that. So it was like a cactus with some sort of guitar in the back, a hat, with some rope. And this was the concept drawing, and I actually have the watercolor in my other works. And then I've got, this was like fan art. Remember how I said, don't take carbon paper and put it on the paper and trace over it? That's actually what I did for this guy, or for this gal, Princess Jasmine. So what I did was see most of this of her curvature and her outline of her head, that was all done with like carbon paper. It was like, it's what they use for like receipts and stuff. You print on top of it and then it copies, so you can have a yellow copy and a white copy. It's like transfer paper is what they call it, but I call it, the box calls it carbon paper. This is another guy I drew out of out of my head. I wanted to draw somebody with like huge lips, almost like a frog or something. Some hair, head, body. So I was drawing bodies earlier, but the anatomy is too big and it needs to be changed. Same with these. These are also they're carbon papered, but I drew with like some specialty pins, the ones that have ink in them already, and they're like really tiny, really small. We'll get into that more later. These are just also things that I had drawn. These also for sure are carbon papered, and then I shaded them in. I mean, it's pretty much what you use in Photoshop. You take a picture and just trace it over in Illustrator or Photoshop. This was something from comics that I did, another thing that I used carbon paper with and just shaded it. Same with this one, same with this one. It's just a method to get things looking right. Chevrolet. I've also got this guy, GT500. It's a Mustang. So, and then I've got some other stuff right here. I used to do like this stuff right here turned into tattooing and stuff that I did, but I've never been tattooed or never would tattoo myself. And I'm not against anyone else doing it. I just chose not to do it for myself. So this is the skeleton of the rib cage, some of the spine, you got your clavicles. So I actually studied a lot of how to do all this, and this was hard. But I used carbon paper on this guy to kind of get the outlines, and then I shaded it in. I actually told my teacher much years later that I actually did that, and he's like, well, that's okay. He wasn't displeased. This is also is another skeleton that comes way down here. I've got some orthographic skulls. So orthographic means different views: side view, top view, back view, front view. Then I've got arms, the arm bones for each of the radius and the ulna, or the radius and the ulna, can't remember which one is which. And just turning your arm all the way around is what all these are. And I've got some more of that stuff. And this was all carbon paper, and then I shaded it in. I think I actually blew this up on the computer and then traced over it and then shaded it in, which was cheating, I guess. I got some pectoralis, intercostals, I can't remember what these are called, abdominal muscles, And then you got intercostals, you got the deltoid, you got the pectoralis major and the pectoralis minor. The problem is I know the muscles, but I haven't drawn them very much. I've always been scared to. Um, I'm gonna say it. I have schizophrenia and other challenging mental illnesses and whatnot. But even though you have a mental illness, it doesn't say that you can't be who you want to be. So I have mental illness, but mental illness does not have me. So, anyways, with schizophrenia, it was challenging for me to really draw people, look people in the eye. I also have high functioning autism. So this was the backside, and then this was another from Da Vinci, I believe. And this one I actually didn't use carbon paper with. I just copied it out of the book with my eye to hand. And so that's kind of what I've done with pencils. And I also was showing you another thing here. Let me get this set up for my portfolio. All right, let me just source it up. Kind of annoying. There was one that was duplicated, and so let's see. I should have had this queued up before, but I didn't. Okay. Now I got that one working. Now I go down here. It's so weird, they're just duplicates. Alright, let's get the window capture. Let's do ArtStation. ArtStation is a professional website for artists. I only have professional on there because I use it to have a website. Let's see here, Google Chrome. I think I need to bring it back up. So, sorry I'm taking this time. I've got about half hour left. There it is right there. Anyways, I'll fix this guy. Okay. I'm just fitting it to the screen so you can see it a little bit better. That's so annoying. Okay. All right, here we go. Fine. Okay, so this is my portfolio. This is the front page. It's an ArtStation portfolio if you're into ArtStation. Basically, it's a professional website for artists who want to pay to have it's like a $72 a year to have a website. And then you can post to the website or you can post to the community on ArtStation. I know a lot of artists who post to it, and I'm in these lifetime, you pay one time for a lifetime membership. And so anyways, these are some of the things that I've been working on. So here's kind of my portfolio. I've got if you go to my channel on YouTube, you can see some of these. I've got a YouTube video about artwork I created at the Art Institute for different classes. This one is called Mischievous and Hungry. It's just a animation. We call it a animatic. So this is what it looks like. Hope you can hear the audio. If not, it's okay. I had to animate all that, so it was really fun. And I wasn't able to animate everything. So he gets an idea, he's gonna run and jump off a little incline and jump on the table. Because he smelled the pancakes and he wanted the pancakes. So anyways. Go back. So I've done like graphic design. I've got this one's called It's the Bomb Yo. I've got these planes dropping bombs. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Siri came on. So I've got this 3D model here and this 3D model here, and then I rendered them out and destroyed some of them in Photoshop. It was just a test, but I think it came out kind of nice. And then I've got like documents that I've made, logos that I've made, flyers, a shepherd tending his flock, dynamic water droplets, blah blah blah, visual iconography. This is something I'm starting in ZBrush, working on my face, my nose. So here's like some side views and whatnot. I've also have this guy Legally. He's the Smiling Goblin. He's been beaten a few times, whipped and doing all kinds. Needless to say, I just whipped out, I bought ZBrush 2018, and I've been able to update it to ZBrush 2019. And I just started working and doing all this stuff. I got into it a little bit, so he's been beaten, whipped. He's got some scars. Got another scar here. He's not actually done yet, so I need to texture him and whatnot. I've got some 3D modeling that I did at the Art Institute of Seattle for a game I made. Created these pieces in the back. Created this restful lounge. I've got this piece called Time Together, which is really nice. Mostly just in silhouette and a painting that I made in art. What is it called? Art Rage and Photoshop. Royal Desert Walk. I thought it'd be cool to have a red carpet going through the desert. Just some more landscapes done in Photoshop back in 2010. Photoshop more. This is like shrub pathway. It was basically used with one brush to make all of this except the people. And I just sorry. I whipped these people out real quick. So, and then they do have some kind of like look to them, like they're looking down, talking to each other. It has a story, and I really like telling stories. So basically, I'm going to go back. I've got anatomy, which is basically stuff that I had used before, and I had painted in Photoshop and whatnot. So that's my beginning of. This was done in 2007. So I've got these kind of photos that look like I call it What's That Cloud, but they're basically done in Alchemy. It's a free software that you can use to create things mirrored on both sides. This is what I call the Beast. So I'm just going to scroll through these guys pretty quick. I like this guy. And I like this one up here. This guy here, and then I got Splat. I like that one, and I like this one. I like that one, and I like this one is cool. This one is cool. This one is cool. Like, the reason I was doing them in black and white was because I like the contrast of both black and white. And this is my energy just flowing out into the software. And the software creates random shapes and whatnot. So it kind of, when you draw, it'll mirror it and spew out a lot of stuff. And then I can draw on top of it really fast and do all kinds, and then it will mirror on both sides. So I really like this one. I call it Balance. It looks like a dragon to me. Some eyes, some eyes and like a little crown. And the dragon's face, almost like a serpent or a dragon. Right here in the middle and stuff. Anyhow, so 2D graphics was like more of that stuff that I was showing you before. 3D graphics is kind of what I've been showing you already. Restoration is I can restore genealogy if you're into genealogy and whatnot. So this was a slide, and this is the afterwards that I restored. This one has hands in it, and she wanted those taken out, like that. This is my brother-in-law, and this is a picture of him, and then this is what I put back inside. So I can do a fair amount. Digital painting, some of the ones that I already showed you, animation, work in progress. I'm doing this like aircraft carrier in Modo. It's just a 3D software they use in Hollywood and games. So I'm working on that guy. And some interface design. Basically called Shattered Bowling. It was an idea I had for I actually have the whole like 15 process of pushing this button, push this button, and I went to scene. But for simplicity's sake, I just kept it like that. And then I've got some resume, I got audio, a blog, my testimony, and contact. Testimony meaning like I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as Mormons. But I'm a Taoist Mormon or a Taoist Mormon. Mormon. A Taoist Mormon, meaning I believe in balance, I believe in yin and yang, and that's just part of my testimony. And basically, if you don't know what a testimony is just things that you know to be true in your life because of line upon line, precept upon precept, you've had things that are explained to you in a certain way. So anyways, I don't want to get all religious and whatnot, but I'm going to be bringing a lot of that into my, not religion, but a lot of the Taoism content into my drawings. So look for that later down the road. And so that's pretty much everything. So I'm going to get that out of the way. And then I'm going to come back here, turn this off. So there you go. Anyhow, I appreciate you taking the time to, we got about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to be talking about in-depth artwork. I've got all these books behind me and whatnot about content that we can learn about, my process and things that I've done, and things that I will yet do. I'm really into music. I like electronica, 80s, country, rap. I like clean rap. I don't like rap that's so infested with cuss words and whatnot. But if you like it, then that's your method. That's what you like. It's all good. So anyhow, I appreciate you reaching out to me and trying to get some of this junk taken down. I gotta reconfigure. I deleted one of them that I thought was a double, and it actually was for both of them, which is annoying. So, okay. Anyhow, appreciate you joining with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to use my hashtag if you'd like. Add me on Facebook if you want. I usually don't add people I know unless I know you in person, but I have more content on Facebook down below. Please feel to like and subscribe so I can get more and more options for having longer videos and whatnot. So appreciate you reaching out, appreciate you watching. I don't know if anyone's watching right now, but I think it's going to be great. Up here, I'm actually going to have the Restream chat. I was trying to restream out to basically broadcasting to YouTube and Facebook, but I could only get YouTube to work and I couldn't get Facebook and YouTube to work, so I just did the YouTube and then I'll post that later. But up here is going to be a chat. If you have comments or concerns or feedback, anything you'd like to tell me about or whatnot, ask me any questions. If you have comments, please keep them clean, please keep them just be authentic, you know. But if you don't like anything that I do or whatnot, I guess that's on you. So anyways, take care, love you, peace out.